Mandami.
Please accept our 3 votes. Can I request you for forgiveness, Shama Yachana?
Please.
Okas vandami bhante dvaratena katam sabbam aparadam khamatu me bhante dutiyampi okas vandami bhante dvaratena katam sabbam aparadam khamatu me bhante tatiyamti okas vandami bhante Dvaratena katam sabbam aparadham khamatu me bhante. Now I will request you, Shri Yachana. Okas aham bhante ti saranena saha uposata ashtashilang dhammang yachami anugaham katva shilang detame bhante dutiyam ti okas aham bhante Ti saranena saha uposata ashtashila dhammang yachami anugaham katva shilang detame bhante tatyam ti okasa aham bhante ti saranena saha uposata ashtashila dhammang yachami anugaham katva shilang detame bhante.
Sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Brahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Brahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Surameraya majapamadatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Surameraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Nacha gita vadita visukadasana mala ganda vilepana dharana mandana vibhusanatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Nacha gita vadita visukkadasana mala gandha vilepana dharana mandana vibhusanatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Ucha sayana maha sayana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Uchchasayana mahasayana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Attasilani sikkhapadang samadhiyati.
Attasilani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Silena sugating yanti, silena bhoga sampada, silena sugating yanti tasama silang visodhaye.
Bhante sadhu sadhu sadhu. Bhante, can I do formal request for Dhamma Desna?
Yes, please.
Brahma cha lokadipati sampati Katanjali andivaram ayachata Santidha satta parakajati ka Dese tu dhammam anukamping mangpajang.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang anutarang upachayang namasami. So we can begin. It's always good to begin a period of practice with some formal sitting. So we can actually do a period of formal meditation together, maybe for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll shift to a more Dhamma talk mode for another 15 or 20 minutes. And then we'll have time for question and answers. So everyone can just relax into a position which is comfortable but upright. You can sit on the floor if you can, or you can sit in a chair. The most important factor is just that you are both upright but also thoroughly relaxed. Practicing in the Nahuyana or Palak tradition, people who are comfortable with this mode of practice can bring your attention to your meditation object, whether it's the breath just at the nostrils, or if you are paying attention to the nimitta, you can do that. But I think for most people, most days, the breath is the most broad meditation object, one which is always useful to come back to. So as the Buddha said, breathing in long, one knows I breathe in long. Breathing out long, one knows I breathe out long. Breathing in short, one knows I breathe in short. Breathing out short, one knows I breathe out short. And this practice can become, sometimes for some people, it can become dry. It becomes difficult to focus so intently on our one point. But as we pay attention to the breath right here, just bring a sense of gratitude. Brighten your whole mind. We're here. Our health is good enough to practice. We're alive when the teachings of the Buddha are still practiced, still alive. We're still alive. We have this breath in this present moment. And as you pay attention to the breath right here, knowing the short and the long breaths, more and more subtly, with more and more refinement, you can remember the Buddha's teaching in the Anapanasati Sutta. Breathing in, one gladdens the mind. And breathing out, one gladdens the mind. We are so fortunate to have the Buddha's teaching. In India, it's nighttime. It's turning into the night. But when you practice knowing the breath right here, when you pay attention in an appropriate way, then an internal light begins to develop. And the more subtle and more refined your awareness can become right here, and the more bright this light can become, this inner light. This is a light which comes with gladness. And it does not say it directly in the Anapanasati Sutta, but you can even think, breathing in, I remember gratitude, Katanyu Katavedi. Breathing out, I remember gratitude. Breathing in gratefully, and breathing out gratefully. And the more you pay attention, the more constant your mindfulness, the more refined your awareness, and the more exquisite, the more refined, the more beautiful, the more bright, even the more sweet the breath can become. And then with every breath, you can almost feel like you're taking in divine nectar. Your mind will likely jump to the future, to the past, or have some complaint or some praise in the present moment. Just keep coming back gently and kindly. And even if your mind is all over the place, if your mind is scattered, and there's no sweetness to the breath, still it is kusala kamma to try. Just keep coming back, even when it's difficult. This is Chitta Bhavana. This is the path of the Buddha. Whether the breath is refined or coarse, whether our mind is refined or coarse. Breathing in, I experience gratitude. Breathing out, I practice gratitude. Bringing our whole mind, all of our intentions to this process. Now having sat meditation for 10 minutes or so, shift more into a Dhamma talk mode. You can continue to pay attention to your breath as you like, or you can shift more into an expansive mode where you are more receptive to other input, sounds, to considering the teachings. It's up to you. This is an important skill to develop, the ability to shift your focus of attention and to figure out what the mind needs. Because the Buddha didn't just teach one method. It's traditionally said the Buddha taught 84,000 Dhamma doors. And we need to become skilled at knowing what we need right now in this moment. If you have the time and you have the space, practicing very intently, as the Pa'ak method teaches, at the tip of the nose, can be a supreme vehicle for practicing. A very, very direct method of practice. But for most people, especially for non-monks, for non-shramanas who do not have all of the time, for those who cannot spend all of their days just sitting meditation. Those of us who are monks, shramanas, we are extremely fortunate to have the time, but everyone doesn't. So what do you do for the rest of the day? Hopefully you've been able to take the time, to make the time to meditate in the morning. It's a wonderful day to start the day, a wonderful way to begin with Vandami the Buddha. In the Ajahn Chah Sangha, we begin each day with a bow. As soon as we wake up, we have a Buddha Rupa, we have a Buddha statue in our huts, or if we don't have a statue, we have a picture of the Buddha. It is in the direction of our heads. And as soon as we wake up, we just turn over and bow 3 times. That's a wonderful, wonderful way to start the day. Hopefully we can meditate where you can practice very directly. But the Buddha gave us other teachings to brighten the mind, to gladden the mind. There's a very famous succession of teachings. So with the Pa'ak method, it's a very specific technique, which we are very directly practicing samadhi bhavana, and using samadhi as a vehicle to make the mind happy. So there's the famous saying that we should practice samadhi because the mind with samadhi sees things as they are. But there are actually different ways to cultivate and to grow in our capacity and our skill in samadhi. One very natural way is the progression which the Buddha taught, what we sometimes refer to as the path of pamoja, the path of gladness, the path of pamoja, where the Buddha many times would say, for example, tasime pancha nivarne pahine attane samanupasato pamojang jayati. So with the abandoning of these 5 hindrances, when we see that in ourselves, then pamoja arises. This gives birth to pamoja, to gladness, to happiness. Pamuditasa piti jayati. So for one whose mind is glad, then piti, or rapture, or joy arises. So this is just a natural consequence. The Buddha gave the simile of it's like you have a mountaintop, and when it rains at the top of the mountain, then the rain will flow down start filling the cracks and the small ponds at the top of the mountain. Then those overflow, and then it leads to the ponds lower down on the mountain. This leads to the lakes and the streams, and eventually the rivers, and all of this just flows down the hill just naturally. And this is the path of pamoja. So we abandon the 5 hindrances, or we do other wholesome actions which lead to the arising of pamoja. When pamoja, or gladness, arises, then that leads to piti, or joy. Piti manasa kayo pasambati. So for one whose mind is enraptured, so one who has a mind of piti, then the body becomes tranquil. The body becomes tranquil. It's just a natural effect. Pasada kayo sukang vedeti. So for one whose body is relaxed, whose body is tranquil, then it gives rise to pleasure. It gives rise to happiness. It gives rise to this sukha internal. And then sukhino chittang samadhyati. So for someone who is happy, then the mind is concentrated. And this is a very natural path to concentration, and one which you can practice in daily life. So basically, the more that we can develop a wholesome, a skillful, just natural happiness, then the more the mind will incline towards samadhi. This is just a natural course. We have to be intelligent, though, with this sukha. This isn't just amesa sukha. This is not worldly happiness. We're talking about niramesa sukha. We're talking about the spiritual happiness, the happiness of the path, the happiness of developing the Buddha's teaching. This is a beautiful thing. When we were meditating, just remembering this gratitude. Gratitude can be a path to pamoja. And again, from pamoja, this leads to piti. This leads to rapture. When the mind is raptured, the body becomes tranquil. When the body is tranquil, the mind experiences happiness. And sukhino chittang samadhyati. When the mind is happy, then the mind becomes concentrated. One becomes concentrated. So it's good to remember this and to figure out what this means. What are the different internal and wholesome ways of practicing and knowing the Buddha's happiness? This isn't the happiness of seeing the most beautiful sights, the most sensual things, or hearing the most beautiful sounds. This is the happiness of practicing the path, the happiness of performing merit. So with the Pa'ak Sayadaw method, we follow the teachings of course, the Buddha, but more specifically, we follow the teachings of Pa'ak Sayadaw as he is found and taught from the Visuddhimagga, from Buddhaghosa's Visuddhimagga. And as hopefully many people will have heard, in other places, in other of the Atthakatha, the commentary of Buddhaghosa, he teaches a very useful set of 10 what are called punya kiriyavatu. And these are 10 more paths to pamoja. These are 10 more skillful ways to direct our mind, which then lead to piti, kaya passaddhi, which lead to sukha, and which lead to samadhi, which then leads to yatha bhuta jnana dasana, so knowledge of the way things are. So these kusala, these 10 punya kiriyavatu, we've got that which is dana maya, that which is made from dana. We've got that which is sila maya, the punya, the merit which is made from performing and keeping precepts. So people here, which is wonderful and beautiful, you took the 5 precepts, you took the 8 precepts. This is such a beautiful, beautiful act. Today is not the uposatha, but to keep the uposatha precepts as is totally voluntary. None of you have been coerced into taking the precepts, but you have taken them anyway. This is when you look at yourself and realize the beauty of this. This is the sila maya punya, the merit which comes from having made and having kept precepts. The third type of punya kiriyavatu, the basis for meritorious action, that is bhavanamaya bhavanamaya punya, the merit which is generated from practicing meditation, from practicing bhavana, from practicing mental development. And that's what we did at the beginning of this session. And hopefully that's something which all of you do and make time for throughout your day, because this is a very direct method of practicing the path, is bhavana. Whatever your meditation object is, if you are very strict with the Pa'ak method, that is wonderful. If you have a more expansive meditation object, or if you practice the 4-element meditation, or Asubha Bhavana, or if you practice the Brahma Viharas, the 4 boundless mind states, really the Buddha gave us many meditation objects. In the Visuddhimagga, the Buddhaghosa lists 40 meditation objects, as you all probably know. But really there are so many different variations of those 40 meditation objects. So as you probably know from the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, you've got many ways of practicing kayagata satis. So you've got many ways of practicing mindfulness in the body. And all of these are very direct ways to practice bhavana maya punya. So the merit which comes from directly training the mind. And this is the best thing we can do as humans, is training the mind very directly. But really any of these punya, kiryavatu, these are all bhavana in a sense. I would be curious. It's very common in America for Americans who don't know Pali, who don't know Sanskrit, who are not born Buddhist, like myself, not born in the Buddhist family, come across the Buddhist teachings in my late teens, early 20s. We come across Buddhism in a very narrow window. So basically most Americans' knowledge of Buddhism is just meditation. They think Buddhism, they think just meditation. And I myself was the same way. But the Pali word, as you all know, bhavana, just means development. It's mental development. And in time that we are actively training in any wholesome path, that is truly an aspect of bhavana. So we should recognize this and not denigrate and not think this is a lesser path if we are practicing Dhanamaya Punya or Silamaya Punya or these others. This is legitimate practice. When you live your daily life and whatever your job, when you practice and keep and know the punya, the merit that comes from doing good, this is mental cultivation. This is bhavana on one level. So remember that. The next type of punya kiryavatu is apajayana maya punya, which is the punya or the merit which comes from apajayana, which is basically humility. So not lifting oneself up. This is the merit of bowing. Anytime you bow. So this is a beautiful way which monks, we start our day and we end our day. And we bow so many times. Gosh, throughout the day, we're bowing all over the place. And it's a beautiful, beautiful way to start the day. You start your day with a recollection of the triple gem and remembering what's most important in our life. And this is humility, especially in the West. And hopefully it is not becoming this way more in India. As Buddhist monks in particular, I'm so grateful for the gift that we have received from India, the teaching on the value of humility, because this is at the heart of really the felt appreciation of the anatta sanya, or the truth of not self. And it's basically, this is the practice of not self, is bowing, is knowing humility. So this is just such a beautiful way to start the day and to end the day, is to bow, saying, really, all of my self-concern is leading away from Nibbana. When I can bow, give myself up to the Buddha, give myself up to the Dhamma, give myself up to the Sangha. This is really the path that I want to be practicing, the path of anatta. So that's apajayana maya punya. The next type of punya is veya vacha maya punya. So this is the punya, this is the merit which comes from veya vacha, which is, as you probably know, the way of service. So the way of giving, really, the way of giving in a social way. So yeah, this is something which is very important. If you have the fortune to have been able to choose your livelihood, or if you still have a choice of choosing your livelihood, if you can choose a method for gaining your living, for gaining your wealth, which is involved with service, is involved with making the world a better place, then this is a path for making merit. This is a way of gladdening the mind. And please remember this, like at the end of your day, please look back on your day. If you have a job which is having the good fortune to be a good job where you're helping people, look back on your day every day before you go to sleep. maybe after you bow, you've lied down, review your day in your mind. What did I do today? If you are a doctor or a nurse or a farmer, whatever your profession, you can just look over your day, and hopefully there are many things which you've done during the day which you can be proud of. And this isn't the pride of self. This is the pride of not self. This is the pride of kamma, the pride of action, the pride of kusala, the pride of punya. So you say, oh, there is much goodness which has been done. And this is a beautiful thing which brightens the mind, which leads to pamoja, which leads to piti, which leads to kaya pasadi, which leads to sukha, and which leads to samadhi, very naturally. The next punya kiriyavatu, the next two are patidana maya punya and patanumodana maya punya. So the first one, patidana maya punya, this is the punya of dedicating merit. So once at the end of the day, once you've looked back on your day, oh, today I practiced humility. For me, it's 8 o'clock, a bit past 8 in the morning, but still I've been up for a while. I've bowed many times to the triple gem, looked back on my morning, practiced meditation, considering the teachings, reflecting on the teachings, reciting the teachings. And yourselves, whatever you've done, remember the good, and then dedicate that to all beings and dedicate that to Nibbana. So this is dedication of merit, and this, especially when you dedicate your merit to all beings, the Buddha did say that this does have an effect. There are suttas where the Buddha says that there are beings in certain realms who can receive our merit, and it's like giving a gift of food. So it's say people in the hungry ghost realm, beings in the hungry ghost realm, when we dedicate our merit, that's actually their sustenance. So that's patidana maya punya, patanumodana punya. This is what some teachers kind of joke of as being the lazy man's way of making merit. It's basically just by delighting in someone else's goodness. So it's easy for me right now. We've got over 100 people on this Zoom call, and I can just delight in all of your goodness. And you all can practice this as well. So the patanumodana maya punya is basically, wow, this is amazing. I mean, with all the things, all the ways that we could spend our time, for you there, it's a Saturday night. I don't know how it is for your perceptions in India, but Saturday night is the party night in America. So people are just thinking about wasting their time, basically breaking all the precepts, whereas all of us has come together and we're listening to Dhamma, reflecting on Dhamma, practicing meditation. And this is just beautiful, and we can delight in each other's goodness. The last three types of ways of making merit, basically ways of making goodness, ways of bringing about gladness in the mind, are around listening to the Dhamma, Dhamma savana maya punya. So the joy or the merit which comes from listening to Dhamma. So this is great. These days, technology is such that you can just listen to a Dhamma talk anytime you want. Basically infinite resources on the internet. If you've got an MP3 player or a smartphone or even a dumb phone, hopefully you have resources for listening to Dhamma talks. And if not, you can just, hopefully there's a monastery nearby, or you can just talk with your friends, your other Dhamma friends, listening to Dhamma. This is a way of delighting the mind. You know, really most people are not, you know, sitting meditation does require, it's not easy for most people. Honestly, it's not easy for most people. And these other ways of practicing merit, they can be much easier. Just listening to a Dhamma talk, it requires less cognitive overhead. It requires less mental effort than the kind of rigor or the energy involved in practicing formal meditation, of coming back again, the focus, especially of our Pa'ak method. But listening to a Dhamma talk is a much more expansive way of growing in the Dhamma. The next punya kiriyavatu is Dhamma desana maya punya. So the way of cultivating merit, which comes from teaching the Dhamma or talking Dhamma. And you can do this. You don't need to be a Dhamma teacher. You don't need to be a monk. Just talk to your friends, and of course you don't want to talk to people who don't want to hear the Dhamma, because that's just a waste of your time, and it might even make them less inclined to listen to the Dhamma. But if you've got friends, and we've got over 100 people on this call, hopefully you know each other outside of this group, but you can talk Dhamma with your friends, and that leads to gladdening the mind, which leads to piti, which leads to kaya passaddhi, which leads to sukha, which leads to samadhi very naturally. And the final way of making merit, taught by Buddhaghosa as a punya kiriyavatu, is the dit uju kama. So this is the kama, the action of straightening out our views. So none of us were born with complete right view. If we were, then, well, we wouldn't have been born, actually. So, and even if we had a measure of right view, then we would have been born stream enterers. And then you should be the one, find ways to, if you're a stream enterer, then that's wonderful. But we all need to practice. We all need to keep straightening out our views. And it's not the case that you read the canon, you read one sutta, and your views are totally straight. It's like our life, we've started off with more or less views at an angle, not going directly towards the path. We don't know the path, and we have to learn what the path is, and then we have to take effort to follow it. Even if we have the map, we've got the Buddhist teachings, we've got the Tipitaka, still we have to walk it. It's not the case that you have the map and then you're automatically going to get to the goal. We're going to get to Nibbana. You must walk the path, and that takes effort, and that's the continual walking of the path. So please remember these 10 punya kiriyavatu, and please remember this very natural way of growing in the path, the way which leads to pamoja, which leads to gladness leading to piti leading to kaya passaddhi, bodily tranquility leading to sukha, leading to happiness, Dhamma happiness, and Dhamma happiness leading to samadhi leading to yatha bhuta jnana dassana, knowledge of the way things are. So I'll leave the Dhamma talk there, and we can open it up for a period of question and answers.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bande. It was a very nice Dhamma talk. So can we start the question and answer session, Bante?
Please.
Okay. I will translate those. They will talk in Marathi, and I will translate for you. And your answer, I will translate for them also. Okay.
Thank you.
प्रश्न आहेत का कोणाचे? प्रश्न आहेत का? अनम्यूट करा.
Bhante, Bhante, you talked about how meditation sometimes dry out, and how this curiosity dry out, and it becomes just a sort of job. Meditation becomes just a sort of job, and curiosity dries out. So how to keep this sense of curiosity? How to generate this sense of urgency, but at the same time, how not to be restless about it?
Yeah, very good question. So during formal meditation periods, you want to be very specific with what you're doing with your mind. So maybe at the beginning of a meditation session, you can ask yourself, this is the time to be curious at the beginning of your meditation period. Deepak, do you want to translate just at the end of when I speak, or by and by? No. I keep speaking.
You can keep speaking, Bante.
Keep going. Okay. Yeah, so at the beginning of your meditation session, if you are going to be practicing Samadhi Bhavana, then say maybe first 2 minutes, first 5 minutes, be very curious, especially if your mind is not easily concentrated and you have been experiencing this dryness, this feeling like basically disliking meditation. You do not want to dislike meditation. You want to keep up a friendly relationship with your meditation object. And so during this initial period, ask yourself, curiosity is asking questions. So ask yourself very directly, what do I need? What does the mind need right now? What does the mind need? What would make the water of the heart flow? And see what conditions are. And then allow yourself to practice in that way. And yeah, this is also a skill, is learning to ask the right questions and then listen to the answers. And it might be the case that you might want to experiment with a different meditation object. So this first 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you ask yourself, what do I need? And it might be the case that the mind might respond, actually, I don't want to pay attention to the breath right here. I want to know the breath or experience the whole body. So practice kaya gatasati. I don't want such a narrow lens. I need something broader. So let yourself do that. This is within the teaching of the Buddha. And then the body is like a playground. You've got, this whole 5-6 feet of body to play around in, and just to look and to explore. And that can really lead to curiosity developing. So give yourself that.
Okay, Bante. Sorry.
Unmute kara, please. कोणाला प्रश्न आहेत का अजून?
Sir, मी विचारू?
Yes.
Ajahn, Dhamma Mangalam is conducting, this is 9th online retreat, around 200 meditators each time. We observe that sleep is the main problem. Lots of meditators face, and they have to spend a lot of time to solve this problem. And some of can't face it, and they leave practice. So what is the cause of this hindrance? And is there any way that meditator cannot face this problem?
Yes, sleepiness.
Yeah.
Yes. Very good question. The Buddha said that there were 5 reasons for sleepiness. You have arati, tandi, vijamba kaya, bata samada, and cheto linatam. So those are arati, or discontent or aversion. You have tandi, or bodily tiredness. You got kaya vijambita, so like yawning or stretching of the body. You've got drowsiness after a meal, and you've got just mental non-sharpness, cheto linatam. So what the Buddha taught was the solution, or the antidote to drowsiness, is aloka sanya. This is one way to treat drowsiness. mean, one, just very practical, is this is kind of late. I mean, right now it is maybe 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. In where you are in India. And for many people, that might be, it's dark outside. So you might find for yourself that you might want to meditate earlier in the day when it's still light, especially in the mornings. But just being able to cultivate the inner light, the ajata aloka sanya, is very important. And there are many ways to do that. One very practical thing is just to open your eyes, and honestly, just to maximize the amount of light that is entering your eyes. If you are in a dark room, then you can turn on the light and just literally open your eyes to let in more light. It's like a camera. So you have different, what are called apertures on a camera. And when the aperture is small, very little light gets in, and naturally the image is going to be dark. But if you open the aperture, then it lets more light in. So experiment with that. Open your eyes and find ways to gladden the mind, like we were talking about. Just remember good things that you've done. Stand up, splash water on your face, pull your ears. Basically, it's good to appreciate that the Buddha had 84,000 Dhamma doors. You know, the answer to every problem is not just to come back to the breath at the tip of the nose if we're tired. So experiment, stand up, and let more light into your practice.
Okay, Van. Sadhu.
Okay. कोणाला प्रश्न आहे का अजून? Okay. Submit करा.
बंदावी म्हणते. सर मी मराठीमध्ये विचारते.
Yes.
आपण शील घेतो अष्टशील ज्यावेळेस, तर त्यावेळेस आपण हे जे आहे की गाणे वगैरे हे
तुमचा आवाज बंद झालाय. Submit करा.
हॅलो,
पुन्हा सांगा एकदा.
आपण अष्टशील घेतो ना, की मी गाणे ऐकणार नाही, कुठल्याही प्रकारचा एंटरटेन होईल अशी गोष्ट समजा करणार नाही. तर फॅमिलीमध्ये असताना बऱ्याचदा समजा आपण घेऊ शकतो ते सील आपण घेतलेलं असतं, पण इतर व्यक्ती समजा टीव्ही वगैरे लावते किंवा ते ऐकण्यात आलं, किंवा आपण बॉडीने तिथे प्रेझेंट असलं, आपल्या मनामध्ये नाही आहे ते, पण आपण बॉडीने तिथे प्रेझेंट असलं, तर त्या शीलचं काय समजा म्हणजे आपल्यावर
तर तुमचं म्हणणं आहे की ते शील तुटतं का त्यावेळेस? ओके ओके. पण ते this lady asking that we take the precept of Nachya Gita Vadita, that in the family life that many people not take the same precept, or some people not take. Sometime family member switch on the TV and song is going there, but we have to also sit with the members. In that sense, is that precept is breaking?
No, it's not. If you are not the one who turned it on, and especially if you are not enjoying it. So I imagine maybe if you have kids and they turn on some bad music you don't like, then it's definitely not breaking the precept. One, you didn't turn it on, and two, you don't even like it. So not breaking the precept.
तुम्ही जर टीव्ही ऑन नाही केली आणि तुम्ही त्यामध्ये आनंद नाही घेत आहे, तर ते शील तुटत नाही, ते शील ब्रेक होत नाही.
अच्छा सर, आणखी एक विचारू का? सर, जसं भगवान बुद्धांनी म्हटलेलं आहे की आपल्यामध्ये जी कला आहे त्याला आपण वाव दिला पाहिजे किंवा त्या कलेला जोपासलं पाहिजे. बऱ्याचदा काय होतं, म्हणजे स्पेशली मला पण म्हणजे आधीपासून आवड आहे असं सिंगिंग वगैरे करायची आणि डान्सिंग वगैरे म्हणजे मनोरंजन म्हणून किंवा एक कला म्हणून असं. तर अशा आता आपण तर मेडिटेशन करतोय ना, तर अशा वेळेस जर आपली इच्छा झाली तर आपण ते करायला पाहिजे की नाही. पण आवड आहे समजा तर ती आपण आपली कला ती त्याला जोपासायला पाहिजे की सोडून द्यायला पाहिजे. एक मेडिटेटर म्हणून हा प्रश्न विचारायचा आहे.
But they say another question from this lady that she's saying that if we like to dance and we take the precept, but sometime we feel to do that. In that sense, what we have to do?
Well, the precepts, especially the 8 precepts, it is good for the 5 precepts to take them for life if you can.
Yeah.
But these are not Christian precepts. If you break one, it is not a sin against the Buddha. You can just retake the precept, whether with a monk or you just bow to your Buddha Rupa, your Buddha statue, and take the precept again. Or when you are taking the precept, be more specific with how long you are taking it for. So you can say, I take the precept for today. I take the precept for 2 days, and not taking it on longer than you're ready to do.
Okay, so listening the song that time means just for the self-liking means she liked to listen this, she liked to dance. In that sense, that precept is breaking, but
If she has taken on the precept of not to dance or not to sing,
okay.
and then if you do break, then it is breaking the precept, but it's not broken forever. You can just
Okay.
take it again and then learn from that.
पण ते म्हणतायत की तुम्ही काय करायचं की सपोज जे पंचशील आहेत ते तुम्ही घ्यायला पाहिजे आणि जे अष्टशील आहेत ते तुम्ही सपोज घेताय तर 2 दिवस किंवा 3 दिवस या पद्धतीने तुम्ही म्हणायला पाहिजे आणि प्रयत्न करायला पाहिजे की त्यावेळेस ते तुटायला नाही पाहिजे. परंतु मी याचं उत्तर तुम्हाला थोड्या वेळाने देतो मॅम. ओके, खूप लॉंग सांगितलंय त्यांनी.
ॲज अ मेडिटेटर स्किल म्हणून डान्स आणि हे डेव्हलप करायला पाहिजे का असं त्यांना विचारायला होतं.
Okay, but she want to ask that as a meditator, should we have to skill? Sir, तुम्ही विचारा.
Can we develop a skill like dance and singing as a meditator? Because it our Shila and Buddha also taught us to develop our skills.
Wow. Well, certainly it's easier to say for singing. So if you are basically singing praise to the Buddha, or singing praise to the Dhamma, singing praise to the Sangha, that's a wonderful thing. If you are singing or dancing to arouse greed or lust in other people, that is what's dangerous. You don't want to be arousing lust in other people, but to praise the Buddha, that's wonderful.
Okay, got it.
कल्पना निको से.
Vandami Bandiji. Bandiji, as per Buddha's teaching, first we learn Pariyatti and then Patipati and after that Pativedana. But in India, most of people first do the Pativedana, like a camp of Pativedana means the Vipassana. So, Bhante, is this right practicing in Buddhism?
That's very interesting. I have never heard that. My understanding of Pativedi is basically the insight or actual attainment of the Dhamma. So basically either attainment of arhatship or at least attainment of Sotapanna. So that is what Pativedhi. So it would not be the case that people would start with Pativedhi. You would have to start with Patipati or Pariyati. But maybe there's a different meaning of Pativedhi in India that I'm not aware of.
Sadhu,
Ma'am.
sadhu, sadhu, Bante.
But it's not the case. I mean, you can practice. It's not the case that you spend, say, 4 years in university learning pariyati with no meditation, and then you just go off to the forest and go to the monastery and practice the next 4 years of patipati, and then the next 4 years is, stream entry, non-returner, once returner, arhatship. It's not like that. You don't have to graduate from some kind of pariyati university before you go to patipati. It's good to practice pariyati and patipati together. And when both of those kind of reach fulfillment and reach development and reach maturity, then that will naturally lead to pativedhi.
Sadhu, sadhu, Bante. I got it, Bante. Thank you, Bante.
Unmute kara, please. Pratiksha.
वंदा मी म्हणते माझा असं सिंपल क्वेश्चन आहे की मी बिगनर आहे माझं मेडिटेशनचं, तर मला पौर्णिमेला आपण जे शील पालन करतोय त्याचं आपल्याला बेनिफिट्स आणि रेग्युलर आपण शील पालन करतोय त्याच्यातला डिफरन्स काय आहे नक्की? एक्झॅक्टली आपण पौर्णिमेला जे शील पालन करतो ते कसं करायचं आणि त्याचं
उपोषदशील विचारत आहात का तुम्ही?
हा हा
उपोषदशील आणि जे पंचशील आहे याच्यामधला फायदा काय आहे हे विचारायचं आहे का तुम्हाला?
हा हा
ओके, ठीक आहे. पण ते when we practice the Uposatha Sila on full moon day and other 5 precepts on other days, what is the benefit and what is the difference between these two type of precepts?
It really depends on you, what you need. I mean, there are, say, even Sotapanna who are keeping just the 5 precepts. If you are really, the 8 precepts are just another level of addressing specific, maybe hindrances, addressing specific nivarana. So if you have a specific desire for, like, over desire, unhelpful desire for food, when you train with the 6th precept, then that just puts some parameters around it. And it lets you, when you train with the 6th precept, then it just really, after you've done it for a while, then, say, for most monks, we just don't get hungry in the same way in the evening because we've been practicing. So, but if you have no kind of real food issues, which is rare, most people have food issues, especially when you start fasting or doing 8 precepts, then it becomes difficult. But basically, they're all medicines. Each of the precept is a medicine, and you need to know what you need. You need to know what your sickness is and what would be the best medicine for that.
भंतेंचं संक्षिप्त रूपामध्ये उत्तर हे आहे की तुम्हाला ओळखावं लागेल की कोणत्या प्रकारचं, म्हणजे कोणतं औषध जे शील रूपी औषध आहे ते तुम्हाला सुटेबल आहे. ओके, म्हणजे कोणतं औषध तुमच्यासाठी व्यवस्थित आहे हे तुम्हाला स्वतः चेक करावं लागेल. अनम्यूट करा.
ओके
ओके,
साधू साधू साधू.
महेंद्र जी.
Vandami Bante. It was a really awakening talk today. My question is, most of the people to Dhamma Mangalam, this meditation course, are joined. More than 1,000 plus meditators are joining this online meditation course. This is the 9th term. My question is, the people working in different areas for their daily needs, daily survivals. So in Buddha's perspective, I request you to teach us some Samma Ajiva. So that all the meditators, they have decided to set the goal and they plan their future life, present life accordingly. Samma Ajiva.
Yes. Samma Ajiva, right? Livelihood. A very good question, because most people spend a third of their life at work, doing whatever their job is. So you want your occupation, you want your ajiva, your livelihood, to be in line with the Dhamma, in line with the teaching, rather than going in the opposite way of the Dhamma. You want your livelihood to be such that at the end of the day, you can look back on your day and say, wonderful, I did, I helped people. I was able to be of benefit to the world in different ways, or at the very least, I did not break precepts. So this is very powerful. When you start practicing sila, it's important to reflect frequently that you are keeping sila. And that is one thing which right livelihood does. So you want an occupation. If you can choose what your livelihood is, choose one where you do not have to break the precepts yourself, and you do not encourage other people to break the precepts. So the Buddha said that there were types of livelihood or types of trade which encourage other people to break precepts. If you are a butcher, or you sell meat, or you sell alcohol, or you have you're dealing in human trafficking. Hopefully there's no one who's doing that. But yeah, these are ways, it can be powerful. Even if you have a job, even if you are not a doctor or a teacher or some way which is directly helping people, if you are a merchant or you are a farmer and you're not, teaching people or healing people all day, still, as long as you are not hurting people, that is definitely a good place to start.
Sadhu, Bhante.
Bhante, is it okay to take some question or time?
Yeah, maybe one or two more questions, if that works.
Okay. Mr. Milling, please unmute.
वंदामे म्हणते जी मला म्हणजे धम्म श्रवण करणे किंवा बौद्ध धर्माची पुस्तक म्हणण्यापेक्षा चांगलं वाटतं, पण जेव्हा साधना येते तेव्हा एकदम म्हणजे कसं मेंटल स्ट्रेस किंवा मेंटल टेन्शन मुळे माझं तेवढं मन लागत नाही. त्यासाठी काय करावं?
रवींद्र सर यांचा प्रश्न ट्रान्सलेट करा प्लीज, कारण की माझं नेटवर्क गेलं होतं.
Ajahn, person is he reads lots of Dhamma books. He trusts that, but when the time comes for meditation, it is very difficult to sit and properly meditate. So how to overcome this problem?
Well, reading Dhamma books and straightening out your view is a path to pamoja, a path to gladness. So you need to figure out a way that you can read Dhamma books that brightens your mind. So that is important. You don't just want to consume Dhamma books like it was, you want to be very intentional and very specific in the way that you read Dhamma books, such that it really is learning and is not a distraction. And try, try to practice meditation when and how you can. But if it's difficult, you want to push just the right amount. You don't want to push meditation so hard that you start to hate meditation. But you don't want to meditate so little that it has no deep lasting balance.
Okay, Bante.
Dhamma Bante, I would like to ask about the correlation about the sila and samadhi, or maybe panya. Is it the more sila that we take, the precept, the more the precept we take, will be get our samadhi or our panya will be more better, or good, and also about the practice related to the practice of Dutanga. Is it related to the meditation? Some kind of that. Thank you.
Very good question. So what is most important about Sila Bhavana, the development, cultivation of Sila, of precepts, is not the quantity. So it's not necessarily the case that 8 precepts are always better for everybody all the time than 5 precepts, or that 10 precepts or 227 are always better in every way. It is more about quality. So less about quantity and more about quality. So the better, if someone can keep all 5 precepts in a very beautiful way, and in a way which brings the mind extreme radiance that makes the mind bright, then that is better than someone who is taking 227 precepts, but breaking many of them, or is not able to keep them, or they get conceit, like, oh, I'm keeping 227 precepts, so I'm better than someone who's keeping 5 or 8 precepts. So if you are keeping the 5 or the 8, but you're doing it in a humble way, which makes you happy, then that's, it's about quality, not quantity. So that's the main point about how Sila relates to Panya. As for Dutanga, those can help. I mean, as monks in the forest tradition, we do practice Dutanga. As you probably know, this is the 2nd book of the Visuddhimagga, all about the Dutanga Vata. So this is basically making things slightly hard for ourselves so that we can give more attention to meditation. If we live at the foot of a tree, live in a forest, if we don't sleep at night, if we only eat 1 meal a day, if we only have 3 robes, if we only eat in certain ways, then that can help. But you really have to look at yourself and what is helpful. You don't want to give rise to conceit. I'm better because I'm doing this thing which is hard. But if only eating 1 meal a day, if you can do it, if your health is good enough that you can do it, it does make things so simple. But I think for most people, especially people who are maybe between the ages of say, like 15 and 50 or 60, so that's a large range. It's not easy given school requirements, work requirements, what everyone else around you, everyone is eating 3 meals, 4 meals, 2 meals. So it can be very difficult to keep these food rules, but maybe you will find it helpful. So experiment. There's certainly, the Dutangas, it doesn't just have to be for monks. You can experiment and hopefully it will help you. It certainly helps monks for periods of time.
Thank you, Bante. Madam.
There is one more hand raised. Is it okay?
Sure. Yeah, maybe the last question.
Yeah, okay, Bande.
Hello.
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 Yes, विचारा प्लीज.
Hello.
हा विचारा, आवाज येत आहे.
हा, वंदा मी म्हणते. माझं काय होतं की फुलमून डे असेल किंवा नो मून डे, तर बिफोर 1 डे आधीपासूनच म्हणजे मेडिटेशन जरी नाही नसेल करत तरी त्या 2 दिवसामध्ये फुल बॉडी माझी ब्रीथ पण कॉन्सन्ट्रेट होते आणि संवेदना पूर्ण चेहऱ्यावरती येतात. तर ते आवरल्यासारखा चेहरा असं कंटिन्यू 1-2 दिवस राहतो आणि बाहेरचं काम करायला गेलं तर ते कन्फ्युजन माइंड मध्ये असते. तर हे असं का होते? गेल्या 2 वर्षापासून म्हणजे असं असं झालं की मला कळतं की आता उद्याला पौर्णिमा आहे. तर हे मला कळत नाहीये की ब्रीथ वगैरे कॉन्सन्ट्रेट होऊन जातं.
तुम्ही सकाळी असता का रोज मॅम?
हा सर.
तर तुमचा प्रश्न हा आहे की तुमच्या शरीरावर पूर्ण संवेदना येतात.
हा सर.
तुमचा प्रश्न हा आहे का की तुमच्या शरीरावर पूर्ण संवेदना येतात?
हा सर, संवेदना
त्यावेळेस
येतात होतात पौर्णिमेच्या आदल्या दिवशीपासून आणि त्याच्यावरूनही कळतं मला की उद्या पौर्णिमा तर नाही, म्हणजे असं ते होऊन जातं ते.
अच्छा.
पण बाकी कामामध्ये कन्फ्युजन तयार होते की हे काम विसरल्यासारखं होणार किंवा काही.
ओके. तुमचा प्रश्न हा आहे की तुम्हाला पौर्णिमेच्या आधी संवेदना येतात आणि त्याच्यानंतर तुमचं मन कन्फ्युज होऊन जातं
हा, हो हो.
आणि तुमचं ध्यान लागत नाही.
नाही, ध्यान तर कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन स्वतःच्या बॉडीकडे असते, संवेदनांकडे, ब्रीथ कडे पण असते. फक्त बाकीच्या कामामध्ये नाही लागत. आपल्या हे तर लागून जातं, मला मेडिटेशन लागून जातं पौर्णिमेला, अमावस्येला चांगलं लागतं उलट.
Okay.
हा.
But this lady asking that on a full moon day and a no moon day, before that, one day she got some sensation on her face, and she concentrate on that sensation also, focus on that sensation also, and focusing on breathing also. And but she say, but in the full day means she not able to focus with her work. She have a confused mind.
Yeah, the mind is a very hard thing to train. The Buddha said that the mind is like all of the animals that exist in the world. You know, one day it is like, you know, a human mind, and maybe the next day it's almost like a cow mind or a crocodile or a bird mind or something. But there are many different types of mind states. So it's difficult. What we are doing here with meditation, whether sila, samadhi, or panya, it is not necessarily easy. So while we practice, you don't want to become attached, even if it seems like a good thing, even if you've got, you know, a development of a samadhi nimitta, a perception of light or something else, which is a good thing. You don't want to attach to it. The Buddha said, Sabba Dhamma Nalang Abhini Vesaya. So nothing is worth clinging to. So yeah, we have to remember that all the time. I mean, samadhi, in a way, you could say samadhi is the most refined way of attachment. In a way, we are skillfully attaching to our meditation object. We are trying to cling in a very intelligent way so as to know liberation, to know freedom from clinging from attachment. But in the process, don't cling. So don't attach to different states, whether it's a nimitta or what. And if it comes, if it's there, then great. If it's pleasant, that's great. But if it's unpleasant, also don't cling to that. So in addition to the skill of being with the breath, you also want the skill of not attaching to the breath.
मॅम त्यांनी उत्तर दिलं की शील समाधी प्रज्ञेच्या प्रॅक्टिस मध्ये आपण आपल्या कोणत्याही कृतीशी किंवा कोणत्याही साधनेशी आपण चिटकून नाही राहायचंय, त्याच्यामध्ये आसक्तीत नाही जायचंय. पण त्यांनी एक पालीची लाईन सांगितली, त्यामध्ये हेच आहे की आपण ज्या काही साधना करतोय त्यामधून उत्पन्न होणाऱ्या ज्या काही वेदना आहे, त्या वेदनेविषयी आपण आसक्तीत नाही जायचं आहे. सगळ्यात महत्वाचं हेच आहे की कोणत्याही काही उत्पन्न हो, कोणतीही साधनेमध्ये काही उत्पन्न हो, त्यामध्ये आपण त्याच्या आसक्तीमध्ये नाही जायचं, त्याला चिटकायचं नाहीये.
येस. थँक्यू. थँक्यू. साधू साधू साधू.
रवींद्र सर, पण त्यांना एकदा याचना करूया. मेरिट सर.
म्हणते अनुमोदमी अंदमयम धम्मकथाय साधुकार ददावसे. साधु 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 अनुमोदामी. Ajahn asking for blessings and punya mudal.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sabityo vivajantu sabarogo vinasatu. Mate bhavadvantarayo sukhi dikayuko bhava. Abhivadana sile sanichang udapachayino. Chataro dhamma vadante ayuvano sukhang balang bhavatu sabba mangalang. Rakantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sote bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang. Rakantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada sote bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang. Rakantu sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sada sote bhavantu te.
Thank you very much, Bhante, for blessing us and coming us for the talk. This was very nice.
My pleasure. This is a wonderful group. I'm very happy that all of you meet together. So thank you.
Thank you, Bhante.